These are the Global Mobility Mythbusters. Between them, more than 8 semesters of exchange and study abroad experience. They didn't just give in to the myths, they put them to the test.
I went to the University of Douala in Cameroon.
And I went to Korea University,
the Technical University of Munich,
the University of Nottingham, University of Texas, McGill University in Montreal,
Peking University,
Boston College, USA.
I went to China where the living costs are really cheap, and I also got a few scholarships from Melbourne University and an independent grant from a foundation. The living costs in China were extremely cheap. At uni you could eat for $1 a meal.
You're still paying your Melbourne University course fees, so you don't have to pay for tuition overseas. You do, however, have to factor in other expenses such as travelling after exchange and accommodation, but it's definitely not something that would prevent you from travelling overseas.
I used Melbourne University's advice to help budget. They had some estimates depending on which country you were going to, and I found that once I went and lived there and paid for different things like accommodation and food, that it actually worked out to be cheaper than what I initially budgeted. So no, it wasn't that expensive to go on exchange.
I was a bit anxious at first because there was a stereotype for Texas being an unsafe place to live, but once I was over there I adjusted really well and I found Austin to be a really safe and relaxing city, and for the next 4 months there was no situation where I felt unsafe.
You don't sort of do things that you wouldn't do in any other big hustle bustle city. It's very, very safe.
I felt very safe in China. People were always around, at night, during the day, anytime. There was just hundreds of people out doing different things, so you just didn't go down some dark alleyways. But it was really safe, and the accommodation there was really great. You'd swipe in a card into the building and into the room, and I felt safe at all times.
Obviously I did miss them a bit, but I was having so much fun while I was away and so busy exploring the new city and meeting new people that I didn't really notice that I was missing them until it was time to go home.
It's quite easy to keep in touch through the internet and obviously Skype and emails, and you don't feel very far away from home when it's just a click away.
I was going to be going for 5 months and I was freaking out before I left. I didn't want to go at the airport. I was an absolute wreck. But as soon as I got there and I met the people, I felt at ease, and I kind of forgot about the fact that I had all these people at home because I was in this completely new environment with all these new experiences and these new people. And it's not that you don't care about the people at home or forget about them, it's just that you're living sort of another life for a little period of time, and it's really amazing. In fact, I think that being the Australian in the dorm of 350 people was a bit novel, and I made a lot of friends while I was over there. Everyone sort of wants to know something about you, and you think you're just normal, but to them you're just amazing, and it was just so much fun. I just had a ball, and I got really involved in the uni as well, and that way I met a lot of people.
Cameroonian people are extremely friendly and welcoming and open and animated. I was even lucky enough to be adopted by a local family who I stayed with.
The university had a lot of student-run societies, and you get to take part in a lot of groups there and meet a lot of international students there. I also met most of my friends through my accommodation, the dorm that I was living in, and those friends I keep in touch with even now that I'm back home, so it's definitely not hard to meet people on exchange.
It was really easy to fit my exchange into the course because I went in through the Korea University Business School, and most of the classes are conducted in English.
I found that from the advice of Melbourne Uni, certain subjects are compulsory at Melbourne, so you need to plan ahead. That would be my main advice. Work out what subjects are compulsory at Melbourne and aren't, and then try and plan exchange subjects to do overseas that aren't. I found it helpful to look at the college's websites that I was interested in and try and find subjects that matched up.
My course went for 4 years, doing commerce and a diploma in French. I was able to fit 1 semester on exchange into my course without making it go for any longer, as well as completing my majors. So because I planned from the beginning, doing all my core subjects before I went away, I found it really easy to fit my exchange into my degree.
But I'd say that it wasn't essential to learn Chinese because the subway had announcements in both English and Chinese. So if you didn't have Chinese, you could still, make your way around town pretty easily. And, everyone was so helpful. Even if you said a tiny little thing in Chinese, they would say, "Oh, your Chinese is amazing," and really try and help you out.
I would recommend people who are interested to go to Korea to learn the Korean basic language so that it's easy for them to get around, to be able to read signs, and also so that it's easy for them to communicate with Korean people on the streets to ask directions.
Obviously in Germany they speak German and I don't speak much German. And it was quite easy, all the subjects were in English and I studied German while I was there as well, and you pick up the language quite quickly and enough to get by, and most of the people speak English anyway, especially at universities.
It's probably the best thing I've ever chosen to do, not just at university, but ever. It's a big statement, but it's true.
My exchange was really worthwhile as I get to explore different parts of Korea.
I had a blast. It was fantastic. I got to involve myself in college life.
I was able to travel for 3 months before I started studying, and explored a lot of different countries and experienced a lot of different cultures.
I enjoyed studying at a different institution and making new friends who could possibly end up being my friends for life.
An insight into Cameroonian and African culture.
I learned a lot about a different culture and a different way of life.
I definitely built my confidence and I learnt more about the world and became more interested in other cultures and other countries.